The Lion and the Mouse. When a lion was sleeping, a mouse began creeping up and down beside him. This soon wakened the lion. He was very angry, and caught the mouse in his paws. "Forgive me, please," cried the little mouse. "I may be able to help you some day." The lion felt funny. "How could you, little mouse, help me?" However, he lifted up his paws and let him go. A few days later, the lion was caught in a trap. The hunters wanted to take him alive to the king, so they tied him to a tree and went away to look for a wagon. Just then the little mouse passed by and saw the sad lion. He went up to him and soon gnawed the rope with his teeth. "I can help you, though I'm little." First flight. Mr. Johnson had never been up in an aeroplane before, and he had read a lot about air accidents. One day, when a friend offered to take him for a ride in his own small plane, Mr. Johnson was very worried about accepting. Finally, however, his friend persuaded him that it was very safe, and Mr. Johnson boarded the plane. His friend started the engine and began to taxi on the runway of the airport. Mr. Johnson had heard that the most dangerous part of a flight were the takeoff and the landing, so he was extremely frightened and closed his eyes. After a minute or two, he opened them again, looked out of the window of the plane, and said to his friend, "Look at those people down there. They look as small as ants, don't they?" "Those are ants," answered his friend. "We're still on the ground." The Kangaroo and the Cage. One day the feeders of a zoo found that the kangaroo was out of the enclosure, so they held a meeting to discuss the problem and came to the conclusion that the enclosure was too low. They decided to raise it from 1 to 2 meters high, but the next day the kangaroo was still out of the enclosure. The feeders raised the enclosure to 3 meters. Quite beyond their expectation, the next morning the feeders saw the kangaroo was still free to go about. They determined to raise the enclosure to the height of 10 meters. One day a giraffe chatted with the kangaroo. "Do you think they will go on raising your enclosure?" "Hard to say," said the kangaroo, "if they continue forgetting to fasten the enclosure door." The Miser and the Gold. A miser traded all of his property for a great lump of gold, which he hid in a hole in his yard and went continually to inspect it. One of his workmen noticed, suspecting that there was a treasure. So, when his master was out, he went to the hole and stole the gold away. The miser returned and found the place empty. He burst into tears. One of his neighbors said to the miser, "Don't be so sad. Take a stone and put it in the same hole, and think that it is your lump of gold. As you never meant to use it, the one will do you as much good as the other. The worth of money is not in its possession, but in its use."